I want to start this next segment with a reminder or sort of a notice, I guess. And I don't know that people are necessarily thinking in these terms. The election is about to get going. Voting starts in 6 weeks. The first absentee ballots are going to be going out in North Carolina on September 4th. In Pennsylvania, they go out on September 14th. In Michigan, they go out on September 19th. And this is incredibly important for a few reasons. Number one, Trump doesn't really have 3.5 months to fix something or to have some big win to get voters back. For many voters, he has 6 weeks. And when you look at those three states that will most soon be voting, Biden is up by 2 in North Carolina, up by 7 in Pennsylvania, and up by 7 in Michigan. Those are averages of recent pollings, according to Real Clear Politics. This means that the election is essentially now. Trump has 6 weeks to turn around the polls in those states, because as people start voting in September and October, that leaves fewer people whose minds can be changed in the second half of October and in the last days before the election. So the closing arguments of the campaign, as it were, need to start happening very, very soon. In 2016, 47 million people voted before Election Day, either with in-person early voting or vote by mail absentee. The assumption this year, because of coronavirus, is that there will be dramatically more than 47 million people voting either early or by mail, especially by mail. I sent in my absentee ballot request form yesterday. So this means a few different things. Number one, the vigilance about voter suppression has to be escalated dramatically. Now, I've made an effort since last election not to do the thing where I start talking about voter suppression October 5th. Right, of the year of the election. We've been talking about voter suppression for years at this point. We've been covering the voter purges. We've been covering the opposition to vote by mail. We've been talking about voting machines and all of it. So it should already be up, but we need to even talk more about that. And I'm going to talk more about that on Friday. We would expect that the president will become even more erratic sooner than later. But really, we now need to realize what it is that we're doing here. You know, people talk about the most important election of my life. I believe this is the most important election I will be voting in. So, we talked a little bit about this on the bonus show before. Think about the 2012 election. Barack Obama had been president for 4 years, significant recovery from the Great Recession of 2008. Economic expectations were positive, and you can find clips of me saying in October of 2012, I'm voting for Obama over Mitt Romney. But the reality is that if Romney wins, we're probably going to have a good economy for the next 4 years. All indicators were that the traditional economic signals were pretty solid, that the economic policy of Mitt Romney would certainly tweak the trajectory a little bit, but Romney had a different tax policy idea. Romney had a different health policy idea. But generally speaking, whoever won in 2012 was going to preside over 4 relatively good years in the economy by all of the standard measures. This is a very different situation than what we have today. And so it wasn't that the 2012 election wasn't important, but even at the time, not just in retrospect, I remember having the recognition, and it's on record in video clips, you can go and fact check me, that this was not the most important election I was participating in. We now are in a situation where we will either have 4 years of damage done by a reactionary, ignorant buffoon, or we are going to have 8 years of an even more compromised, more unhinged Trump in the latter 4 of those 8 years. We are sort of on the precipice of either diving even deeper into the deep end of ignorance and narcissism, or we can start to get the house in order. We can start to regain respect from our traditional allies. We can start to get away from being the laughingstock that we have become. We can resume dealing with the climate crisis. We've gone the opposite direction on climate. And fortunately, Joe Biden has adopted elements from the Green New Deal and from Bernie Sanders' climate platform. So is it perfect? No. But we this analogy or this example of if a boat leaves New York across the Atlantic Ocean, what after 10 miles is only a difference of a few hundred yards in terms of the angle can end up with you in Europe or Africa as you cross the Atlantic Ocean. So that's the importance of starting to right the ship today. We hopefully would be seeing an increase rather than a decrease in the number of people with health insurance if Joe Biden were to win in November. we could stop worrying that if a Supreme Court justice were to get sick or die or retire, it would plague us with decades more of the conservative nonsense that we've been seeing. So these are not trivial matters. And I know it feels like a way off. November, it's more than 3 months. For some voters, it starts in 6 weeks. For many voters, the decision about who they're going to vote for is going to be made in the next 4 to 5 weeks, and they will vote in 6 weeks. So time is flying right now. For a lot of us, the days look quite similar. Those of us who are still socially distancing, 4 months in quarantine, each day felt long, but the 4 months have just flown by. 6 weeks are going to fly by. The next 3 months are going to fly by. And if I don't feel that I've done everything I can to stop this insanity, I would not be able to live with myself. So it is now election time. We've got the conventions coming up in whatever form they take place. We have potentially debates coming up, and voting starts in 6 weeks. The opportunity will be there for October surprises, and then that's it. I mean, this thing is almost over. Are we going to have 4 more years of utter depravity? Or can we remove this lunacy from the Oval Office and start to, it's just the start, it's just turning the ship. Can we start to reintroduce sanity to our federal leadership? And of course, one of the biggest issues to consider is coronavirus. And that's what I want to talk about a little bit next.